So thank you again for joining us. Today, we are going to be talking about the unknown gig jobs of the legal industry. So how excited. Some of you probably don't know that there are a significant number of gig jobs, freelance jobs in the industry. And our guests today are going to dive deep into those. So, it's going to be a great learning experience for all of us. Today's webinar topic is, what is a gig economy job? What legal industry jobs are in the gig economy? What do these professionals do? How do you get into this industry? And where do you find those jobs? So that's really what we're going to cover today. My name is Benjamin Jaffe. I'm the host of today's webinar, and I've been in the multimedia and education industry for more than 15 years now. Currently, I'm the manager of digital training and development at BlueLedge. I formerly worked as the legal technology manager of Orange Legal. I am a certified electronic reporter through AAERT and the chair of their communication committee, as well as part of their board of directors. I'm going to be leading us through today. Now, we have a great list of guest panelists: Alexis, Jordan, Liz, and Susan. So I'm going to go through their bios just quickly before we get started. Alexis Allen is the VP of Talent at Veritex Legal and Allegis Transcription. She has had 25 years in the talent acquisition, engagement, and management area. She has been in diverse industries, including restaurant, high tech, and e-commerce. Now in the legal field, she's working on recruiting independent contractors and developing them. And she believes in a holistic approach to building and fostering talent. So thank you so much, Alexis, for joining us.
Glad to be here.
Jordan Kittrick is a freelance digital court reporter and legal videographer in New York City. She has a bachelor's of clerical business administration from USILACS Business School in Florida. She is a trained digital court reporter. She trained at BlueLedge in 2020, and she is a certified electronic reporter for AAERT, as well as does committee work for them. And she started in digital reporting because her roommate, who was a stenographic reporter, recommended it as a good career that she could get into. Thank you for joining us, Jordan.
Thank you.
Elizabeth Dwyer is the production manager and client success manager for Advanced Court Reporting since 2020. Before that, she was a freelance court reporter for over 18 years. She graduated from the New England School of Court Reporting with a certificate of court and conference reporting, and she's responsible for the day-to-day operations of production, quality control, and delivery of transcripts to the clients of Advanced Court Reporting, and responsible for onboarding and training for new reporters. Welcome, Liz, for joining us.
Thank you. Hi, everybody.
And last but certainly not least is Susan Lapu. She is the director of testimony capture for Remote Legal, overseeing a team of reporters and transcribers. She has been a transcriber since 1996, where she started the role so she could stay home with her children and have a little, as she called it, fun money. I like that term. And she worked for over 20 different companies as an independent contractor over those years, and has done everything from police interviews, conference, legislative hearings, and legal transcription. She also became a digital court reporter in 2018, is certified by AAERT, and serves on their advocacy committee, and has seen her career evolve from a gig job to a part-time job to now full-time. So welcome, Susan. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome. So I'm going to stop sharing our screen. And, Jordan, I'm going to start with you, since you really are the person here who is doing the gig job, right? Everybody else here is kind of hiring and working with gig economy people, but you're the gig worker. Describe what the gig economy means to you.
Sure. And thank you again for having me. So working in the gig economy is basically where, in a way, you control your own destiny. I got into this industry during COVID because, like many of us, all of a sudden my career was full stopped. I was locked in an apartment with only an internet connection. So by the recommendation of my stenographer roommate, I got into a field that would allow me to work in the gig industry. So the training that I received from BlueLedge really allowed me to launch my career as a digital court reporter. And what's been so great about it is I'm really not pigeonholed into one job and one industry and even one company. The training that I received to become a digital court reporter has really just opened up many doors of opportunity within the legal field that I really never thought I'd have the opportunity to get into without going to a specialized school or getting some type of legal training. And so that for me has just been absolutely essential with becoming a gig worker in this new adapted hybrid world that we're all living in.
And Susan, in your introduction, I mentioned that you had been working kind of in the gig economy as a transcriber, sort of the other side of the industry we're talking about here. So what was the gig economy to you? You said you did it because you were raising a family and wanted some other income.
Yeah, so I started, I wanted to stay home with my children, and when my daughter was 6 months old, the opportunity arose to try transcription. And I said, why not give it a try? And I was able to work around their nap times. And then once they were in school, it was working during school hours, or maybe it was in the evenings. And it really afforded me the opportunity to be home with my children, which was my priority at that time, and still be able to make the fun money, but also help with the family bills as well.
Well, that's great. And I think a lot of people can definitely understand that, right? They may want to add to their income, or they may need a job that's just different, like Jordan spoke about. Now, Liz, before the webinar got started, you were talking about how your company has converted completely to digital court reporting, and some people on here may not know what digital court reporting is. So why don't you describe what that is to the audience?
Sure. So digital court reporting is, I'm sure you've all seen an old-fashioned stenographer or a voice writer before. Digital court reporting is just another method of capturing the record. It's using high-tech equipment and specialized notes and annotations that go along with that equipment. And it's just as good as, no matter what you hear, it's just as good as stenography or voice writing, and it's going to be the wave of the future. It's the way the industry is going, and it really is not only does it give people the opportunity to get a W-2 job or a full-time regular job as a digital reporter, but the vast majority I find are working as freelance reporters, which is the same as traditionally how court reporters worked.
And so what is like a day-to-day kind of thing that a digital court reporter would do? Are they going to a courthouse? Are they going to a hearing room? Are they going into a conference room? So maybe just take a minute or two and walk us through what a day would look like for a digital court reporter.
Sure. So in our particular agency, we don't do a lot of in-court work. We do occasionally, but most of our jobs are in a conference room with 2 attorneys, the court reporter, and a witness, and we do depositions or examinations under oath where the attorneys will question the witness. It can be hard to determine how long you're going to go. Usually you get an estimate, but the reporter is responsible for capturing the record, getting a clear proceeding, getting spellings, getting all the information. They're basically the facilitator of the deposition.
Great. Well, and then Alexis, I know you've focused more on the transcription industry sort of over the years. Maybe you could describe to our audience what is legal transcription and sort of what would they be doing on a daily basis?
Sure. And what Liz just described, what the digital reporter is doing is in the room and gathering these raw materials. The raw materials need to be turned into a legal transcript that we return to our clients. So what the transcriptionist does is utilize those audio recordings coming in, plus the annotation log, and then other pieces of materials that are delivered from the client, such as a notice, the exhibits, all the things that need to be turned into that black and white legally binding transcript. So it's important that a legal transcriptionist know of the industry. This is not just put your headphones on and start typing. You have to know about proceedings and about terminology. So legal transcription is super independent work, but it does need to be well informed, and there are lots of ways to gain that knowledge and experience. It also requires a fastidious attention to detail, right? So digital reporters have to do the same, but the end product is going to be delivered by that transcriptionist. So if things are missing or caught or not understood, that's where the buck stops, and where the record has to be complete and accurate and returned in a timely manner. So transcriptionists work of their own accord. Like digital reporters, they'll accept jobs, they're offered jobs and accept jobs. And they work a lot more independently, meaning a lot more on their own or alone. Digital reporting is a live profession, so it's fun and exciting, and you're live. Transcription, you're doing in your own home office, and a lot of people think there are two very different types of people that do those two jobs. It's mostly true, but it's not always true. There are a lot of people who really do both well, especially people who understand the industry very deeply.
And Susan, I know you've participated in both sides of this industry. So is there anything you'd like to add on to these descriptions?
So I think the one thing that Alexis was saying I wanted to piggyback on, legal transcription is definitely, I would call the cream of the crop. So you have lots of different types of transcription, and especially since we're talking about a gig economy, people are not going to necessarily start right at the beginning of their career doing legal transcription. You're going to start out doing perhaps, general, conferences, things like that, because legal transcription it definitely, there's formatting. You have to understand what a proceeding is. There's a lot of important things that you need to do. So it's probably a little further down the path. For transcription, it was that kind of thing. You take a job, you have a deadline, you fit the work in the time that you have, whether you're sitting at your desk for a full day because you're just doing it like a full-time job, or if you're fitting it in after work or on your weekends, as long as you're meeting your deadlines and following the guidelines and following the style and so forth. So a transcriptionist, there were times that I worked till 2 a.m. because I was a night owl. I love to work at night. For me, those were good hours. Other people, it could be first thing in the morning, they want to get started and get done. For digital reporting, that is a little bit more of a set schedule, because of course you have to be in the presence of the people you're working with. So that's probably the biggest difference gig wise of the two, time with your time, because one, you can kind of, as long as you're meeting your deadlines, you're okay with transcription, fitting it in, but you can't just fit it in when it comes to being a digital reporter. You have to be live when it's live.
Well, and Jordan, I know you started during the pandemic, so you probably have a lot of experience with remote and the flexibility that comes, and the difference about this being a remote job. People heard Susan and Alexis talk about transcribing from home, but even a court reporter can work from home a lot now.
Yeah, I mean, so again, I began this job during pandemic. I think I've done over 320 EBTs, give or take, all over Zoom, a few over Teams. And as Susan was mentioning, yes, my schedule is more around that of the lawyers and the law office. As much as I am home, I do work off of their hours. It could be as early as 9 a.m, and I've worked as late as 7:30, 8 o'clock at night if a proceeding has to finish. But for me, I do like that because I have my weekends off, and for the most part, my evenings are free. I don't have the same type of deadlines like a transcriptionist will. Obviously, my files are due same day. So if I finish, I finish a proceeding at 5 o'clock, I got to make sure that evening before I log off, before I go to bed, all of my audio and my, specific transcriptionist notes are there so that Susan and the rest, or Alexis and their teams, can now basically take my product and turn it into a transcript.
Well, great. And, so we talked about this being kind of a professional career, right? When we think of the legal industry, we think of attorneys and judges and maybe bailiffs, but, this really is a professional career. Liz, I know you had been out being a court reporter for, I think your bio said 18 years. Talk about the professionalism of what it means to have these type of careers.
So my number one thing is in people that I'm looking for is I would look for professional demeanor, professional dress. Um, it's it's a working with lawyers isn't easy. To be honest with you, some of them are, not great. Some of them are fabulous. But I think that the main thing is that you have a professional demeanor. You're there to do a job. You do your job properly, and it's really a great career for somebody who wants to get into the legal industry.
And of course, you don't have to pass the bar exam or anything like that. You don't need,
Right. Well, you do have to pass the AAERT. No, well, that's recommended that you pass the AAERT, and I think in some states it's required. But I mean, I think what it comes down to is the training that you have beforehand, that you're ready to go out and you know what you're doing. And I think that's where people run into problems when they don't have the proper training, to be honest with you, in this job.
Well, and that kind of leads me to my next question about how does somebody get into this industry? Alexis, I know you're recruiting a lot. How would somebody get into this industry?
Well, apply. But there are different avenues, and there are also different type of learning programs to come in. And certainly starting with the certification process is a great way. That's aiming high right from the beginning, right? And it is going to certainly set you up for fabulous success, right? It is already, in advance committing yourself to that. It takes time and it takes work. There are other ways to get in before you're committing to that level of certification. Here at Veritex and Allegis, we bring people in as digital reporters and have a partner program that brings people in and gives them the exposure. We partner with BlueLedge for initial exposure at a smaller level, not certification. And then we have a program that shows people how, directs them toward what equipment they might need and how to comprehensively put together that equipment, use the industry knowledge they've gained, not yet in the field, but maybe from somewhere like BlueLedge. So you're putting that together with the equipment, with exercises and learning. And then, at Veritex, our philosophy is the right reporter for the right job, right? So you're not going to come in without experience and then suddenly be pushed out there, at the craziest 4-day job with 18 witnesses, right? You hopefully can trust, the companies you're working for to help you along, to help mentor you, we call them, we have captains and champions. People come on and you're with a group of people, both locally and nationally and virtually, that help you. Right? There's a resource library and network. And as part of kind of my idea about this holistic happiness, of talent, it's making sure people want to succeed, right? So when you're coming into the industry, you want to know what you need to do. You want to know what the expectations are, how to achieve them, and to get feedback about that. So, it's a circular kind of continuous learning when you're coming in. And transcription, it's much similar. It's a little more introspective because you can do a lot of the practice work on your own, right? Especially when it comes to speed and accuracy. There are a lot of tools out there where you can practice. But similarly, as Susan said, you can come in and start learning to transcribe. So once you're getting that part down, just the process of transcribing down, then you can start layering on things like, okay, how do I puzzle piece, all of these really interesting other attributes? How do I do research to the degree that I need to? And again, we work hard to have comprehensive programs because our industry needs it so bad. So this is gig work, and it's fantastic for us because we know that how much work we have out there and how we need to satisfy them with new talent. And we need to be responsive to people who don't want to punch a clock and sit in a desk from 8 to 5. And it works really well for us, both on the transcription and the digital reporting side, to have these type of jobs where you can learn. It's very professional, right? Gig jobs does not mean like sloppy, lazy, beginner jobs, right? Gig jobs means you're in control of it. And you definitely, if you're in the legal field, you're doing that at a very high professional level.
And Susan, I see you nodding pretty hard along with Alexis, and I know you do a lot of recruiting and onboarding and bringing new people into the industry. So, kind of same question to you. How do people get into this? What are ways that they can learn more and get into this, and learn about roles in this industry?
Well, I am super, super passionate about telling people about how to get into the industry. First, because when I got into transcription, it was very, very one small little area, and it grew from there. And the way that I was able to find out about other avenues of transcription was by doing research. And research is a seriously important attribute as a transcriber. You have to be curious, you have to be nosy, you have to be, want to get the right answers. So research is super important. Another thing is being independent, being able to do things on your own because you're working from home or away from the other people. You have support, but you have to be able to figure things out on your own. So when I first got into transcription, that's what it was, doing research, going to Facebook wasn't a thing then. I won't tell you how long I've been around. But now you have Facebook groups that you can join. There were message boards that I joined to find out about different transcription companies. I Googled transcription companies. I started out, here, and I would make my way to the next level as I would learn an additional skill. So we have people all the time, we put out ads on Indeed or whatever, and we look for legal transcribers, and they do a test for us. And hey, if you don't pass the test the first time, you try again, and you continue to build on your skills and continue to learn. But you have to do your research. You have to find the opportunities. There are so many opportunities out there. I will say one thing: you should not have to pay to start to work for somebody. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but with transcription, you should not have to pay to work for a company. You will pay to go to school if that's the direction you're taking. But if you're going to work for someone, you shouldn't have to pay them first for them to be able to pay you. And for reporting, the way that we do things, we actually have a program where we work with some of the schools and hoping to work with BlueLedge. This next cohort we have of new students we're bringing into digital court reporting. We've had probably 25 or so students who've gone through a program where we've assisted them with tuition for their course. They started out with no experience whatsoever, and they've done the course, and some of them are now gig workers for us, and some of them are actually full-time employees. So the opportunities are out there. It's research. It's doing your research and finding reputable places to test and to get your experience.
Well, and that definitely makes a lot of sense. Jordan, I come back to you because you are kind of the gig worker in our group. And, I always come back to the idea of being your own boss and how do you make it and how do you earn enough? And I'm certainly not asking you how much you make, but the last time we did a webinar, you said something that just drove home to me about being able to afford an apartment in New York. And so maybe you can talk about being your own boss and sort of how do you, what do you make, but talk to me about how do you get by, how do you is this a good job?
Yeah, and that's a great question, which I'm frequently asked by even a few people that I've referred to Veritex to start with the BlueLedge program and become digital court reporters. That's the number one question. Well, how much money do you make? And that's one thing I love about being an independent contractor or a gig worker is realistically, I can work as much as I want or as little as I want. And it goes to show as well as the demand we have right now. There are just not enough stenographers to do the work we're doing, especially now because the courts are opening up and unfortunately lawsuits will be coming because of the pandemic. So our industry is in more demand right now than it has ever been before. And I love my calendar team at Veritex, but I have to often tell them, no, I'm afraid to answer my phone because I get too much work. And I know that sounds hilarious, but it really is true. Is that, you know, some days I can't keep up with the amount of jobs they give me to make sure I actually still have my mind and I'm not too exhausted to make sure I do the job and give the best quality I can give. So to anyone who's, you know, here on the webinar tonight, who's thinking, oh, is this a career for me? Well, if you want to work 5 days a week all day, this is a great industry for you. If you want to work 2 or 3 days a week because you have another passion or another side career, or I saw in the question a retired lawyer who's looking to do something new and maybe just wants to work 2 days a week, this is an industry as a gig worker where you really have flexibility to control your future because there's just too much work. There's too much work.
Well, and Jordan, you brought up the question, so I might as well just ask it to our group now. There is somebody who came online and said they were a retired licensed attorney, and they want to know which would be better for them, transcription or digital reporting, and is typing skills, what's sort of the minimum level of typing skills? Liz, you haven't answered a question in a while. What do you think?
Be a great job for a retired attorney to be a digital reporter. Transcription, I think, takes a little bit more practice, especially if you're worried about your typing skills. There are plenty of freelance reporters that we work with as well that actually do both, but we're fine with people if they just want to take the job, and we have our own transcription department that takes care of the transcription. I would suggest for the attorney that digital reporting would be right for him, just because it's so flexible. And like Jordan said, whether you want to work 5 days a week or you want to work 2 days a week, you're in control. You're in total control of your life. I had to learn that the hard way when I first started freelancing because I didn't say no to anybody and I got a little burnt out. But, once you realize that, you can say no, you can say yes, and you can totally control that week, that work week. It's such a fabulous feeling. It really is. It really is.
Well, and those of us who were out in the field for a long time, I think we have to control ourselves from reacting in a deposition or going, no, don't answer that question. So maybe a retired attorney needs to just make sure they're tempering their, their reactions to what's going on. So if you have trouble tempering your reaction, maybe being a digital court reporter might not be the best role, but it would definitely bring you into the fold. But Jordan, I think I cut you off. I apologize.
No, I'm sorry. I just wanted to say I completely agree with Liz. I think that I had a new hire at Veritex that was shadowing me who was actually a lawyer. She hadn't passed the bar yet and wanted to continue her legal knowledge until she took that step. And she got into digital court reporting because she's like, you know what, I have all this knowledge. I want to keep my mind fresh by going to these EBTs and listening to these, civil cases. So it kind of actually helped her with her future path on becoming a lawyer. So, and especially in regards to typing, you can't chicken peck, I think is the term. You can't be one of these. But as long as your typing speed is decent, maybe 40 WPM, 50 WPM, you'll be okay. And the great thing is you don't have to be a great speller. I am a horrendous speller, which is why I will never be a transcriptionist. So
same thing. I don't really know where a comma goes. So,
yeah.
But Susan, maybe you can chime in on if this person was interested in the legal transcription area, what would their typing speed need to be, and what would they have to be prepared for to jump in on this?
So definitely, for transcription, you do need to be a pretty fast typist. But when I say that, you could be 60, 75 words a minute. You could be 90 words a minute. There are other tools you can use as a transcriber. So things called text expanders. So what you would do, and I won't get into the technology of it, but things that will speed you up as a transcriber. I agree with Jordan. You can't be a hunt and peck person. However, you can, some people can do that pretty fast. What's even more important is being efficient. So efficiency comes by using your shortcuts, using macros, not getting distracted, because don't forget, you're most likely getting paid by the minute or by the page, depending on how the company you work with works. So you don't want to be distracted every time you go and do a search to be like, let me research that word. Oh, let me go down that rabbit hole. And it's an hour later, you've spent an hour that you're not getting paid for. So really, efficiency is very important. I would say grammar is super important. Punctuation is super important. And you really must be a curious person who wants to figure things out. If you're just going to type away and just be like, well, I think they said this, but I'm not sure, but I'm just going to type it. You're not going to last long in the industry. You need to be tenacious to be sure that you are capturing what's being said very clearly. And so speed is important, but it's not really the most important thing.
And I'll just add quickly to that, if I may. Proofreading and editing. That's like the job's done, but it's not done with transcription. And if you're a person like me who 80% is pretty good and someone else can figure the details, it's the opposite. You need someone who cannot stand to leave your presence if it's not been checked and rechecked. And especially with technologies coming up, right? So, text expanders, you're controlling those, but there are other technologies. We know in this world, there are going to be more and more and more things helping us to do things and to transcribe. So that eye for proofreading and editing, other materials, automations happen, right? And you have to be able to notice all the details and proofread and edit to a T.
So that brings up something else, Alexis, that we kind of teased in the webinar intro, but we haven't dived into, is the proofreading and scoping aspect. Both, scoping because somebody has already transcribed it and it needs to be kind of redone, or not redone, but looked at again, or because, it needs a proofing, or because maybe we're using new technology, speech to text or something like that. Can you talk about what is a proofreader, what is a scopist, and how do they fit into this economy and legal, gig economy?
And the industry is changing pretty rapidly, just as technology is. So even what I say today will be different tomorrow. So have an open mind and understand that technology is impacting all of us. And so a proofreader and a scopist means that you have a body of work that is completed to some degree. We'll leave it at that. Maybe someone else typed it, or maybe a machine gave it to you, or some combination of those things. And so a proofreader and scopist goes and basically cleans up and makes sure that there are no errors, but also perhaps pieces together things that the stenographer did not do, right? They said, you put the exhibits in, so that's your job, or you do the cover pages. And then using AI, it's more of the proofreading and checking and figuring out, what is cleaning up. Right now, our quality team does a lot of the proofing and scoping for different levels of transcriptionists that come in. So you'll see it in quality assurance, you'll see it in transcription and proofreading and editing. And I think you're going to see more and more and more of these jobs. Not everyone is going to be a rapid typist, right? So I have people who, we're not using speech to text today, but I have people asking me, can I use this? Can I use this? And I'm like, you're an independent contractor. You can use whatever you want. You need to deliver me a great transcript. So people are already trying to figure out what that is. So I think, and that will help. Technology, we want to embrace it, figure out a way that it helps us, create the same quality jobs, that we've been doing without. So yeah, keep your eye out for it's going to be the dark horse in the race. I think proofreaders and scopists coming in. It allow us to grow, allow the industry to succeed, because it's a whole nother branch of talent that we'll need to add to the mix, instead of just there's more writers than that, but instead of what is only there now.
Well, thank you. And that is a lot. We did get a question in that I want to take a second to answer. Somebody was asking, what percentage of the words does a digital reporter actually type? And maybe Susan, you want to tackle that? What do you encourage? Obviously, they're not going to type every word if they're only typing at 40 or 50 words per minute, but what are they typing, and why is what they're typing important?
So what they want to be capturing, in our opinion, is they're using hotkeys to stamp the speakers. And then at that point, we always want to capture the beginning of a sentence, or because in case they have to go back and find that spot. The second thing that I always suggest is to capture the important words, the verbs, the nouns, the important things. So if you're doing a case about some type of bones in the body, or something in the body, you want to capture the words that are specific to the topic. You want to capture the words that maybe were a little harder to hear or jumbled. So the way I do it, the way I think of it is, if I were to read the words, I can kind of understand what they said, and I left out all the filler words, the, like, because, you know, words like that. And I take down the most important words, being sure to capture, especially the questions well, because attorneys will ask for a playback or a readback, and you need to have something that you're able to pinpoint what it is they're looking for.
And you know, when we teach people at BlueLedge, we often talk about proper names or proper nouns and making sure you're getting those things. And what I always encourage people to say is, even if you know that proper noun and everybody in your town knows that proper noun, and everybody in your state knows that proper noun, somebody who's transcribing this later, or you may go back later, you may not know that noun anymore, or it may, you know, something may have changed. So if it's proper and it's a street name, or it's a city, or it's a whatever, I know we do like an assignment that, like, look up the city that sounds like X in Indiana, and that's one of like our research assignments. And so, you know, that's something that we definitely, you know, encourage people to make sure they get correctly the first time, because you can't always go back and do that. Liz, I know when we were speaking, sorry, keep going, Jordan.
I'm so sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but I should raise my hand. I was just going to say, I really appreciated what Susan said. For me personally, I try to type about 80% of what's being said. If I had to put like a approximate percentage, in my trainings, they said we didn't need to do as much, but I found, as somebody actually in the field, in the industry, approximately 80%. Because of the amount of readbacks or playbacks I am required to do, especially here in New York, the attorneys within 5 seconds want that question and answer read back. So by me getting about 80%, as Susan said, I can immediately find where I left off, especially when you have a question, objection sandwich, and you're in this weird situation where you need to find that immediately. By me typing the majority of what was said, I can, okay, here's where I left off, got it, and play back that question. So that's what I strive to do. The longer the job, maybe I'm more like 70% as I get tired, but I try to do at least 75%. Yeah.
And we should be clear to everybody, that's not a 70% accurate final transcript. Those are just the words, no punctuation, no capitalization. You might drop a few letters even in the middle of a word, you know, or drop the ing off of the end of things, but it's getting a really good idea of what was said and being able to find your place really quickly. So great. No, Jordan, thank you so much. That's great advice. And I can see people are chatting in the chat area right now, thanking everybody for this great advice. You know, Liz, earlier you talked a little bit about certification. Should people get certified?
Well, the first thing I ask people is, when they inquire about a job posting that I put up, is, are you AAERT certified? For me, that lets me know that they're trained. They've taken the test. They have some idea what's going on. Even if they've never even taken a job before, it's definitely somebody I want to take a chance on. I prefer people to be AAERT certified. Massachusetts is a non-certification state, so I don't need people to be AAERT certified, but it's definitely what I'm looking for. We do have some reporters that we trained ourselves, and I'll tell you that it's so much easier when we have people who come in who have an idea of what, you know, just how a proceeding goes, what their responsibilities are, without training them from scratch. I highly recommend anybody who's interested in being a digital reporter or a transcriptionist to get certified. I really do. And please don't pay anybody for a job, like Susan said. That's crazy. So
Yeah, definitely there are scams out there. Find a legitimate company. Obviously, these companies we've worked with for years, they've sponsored or been part of AAERT. You know, AAERT is a great resource. That's the national certifying body. They approve training programs like ours. They work with companies. If you become a member, there's a member directory that you'll have access to. So definitely they're a great resource. They're great. And as I at the top of the hour said, they're having a conference coming up here in the next few weeks or next week, and then their annual conference in June. So definitely, definitely important. Alexis, what do you think about certification when you're doing your recruiting?
It's great. Love it. Awesome. Wish there were more certified people, and then we could hire a lot more people. So that's awesome. I would like to bring people in and lead them towards certification. So I hire anyone certified. That's great. We pay much higher rates for certification. At DRs, once you're certified, it's like a 60% pay increase for being certified. At Allegis, it's a 30%, or I don't know, it's a sizable increase. Can't remember the percentage. So we very, very much value it. We really want to lead all of our reporters and transcriptionists there, but we need to get the work done. So what we want to do is bring people in and help them get acclimated, get the experience they need. We have very strict and very high standards. So that's the way we're leading people to certification, is mirroring what those are. Allegis Transcription was founded with a basis in court reporting. So the whole founding of that company that mirrors very well Veritex is based upon court reporting standards. So even for non-legal transcription work we do, it is buttoned up. So we love certification. We help people. We provide lots of mentoring. We provide scholarships. We provide all these things to get there, but we don't require it. But we will cheerlead you and help you get there and help the industry get there. And that's where we want to go. But you can start doing this work before you're certified and with the right companies. And we're not the only company, Veritex, that does this. There are companies there that can help you make sure you're on the right jobs, you get the right exposure, you get the right mentoring. You just have to be serious about it. It's not just, let's check it out, maybe I will. It's like, no, I'm serious. I want to commit. I want to learn. So motivation, availability, aptitude for learning across the board on both jobs, those are hugely important. More important sometimes than speed. You can get faster in your typing. You can do that. It's easy. Go practice. You'll get faster. You'll make more money, right? But you can't buy, you have to come to the table with motivation.
Great. And I think we all have kind of pointed out the idea that this is a highly in-demand field. We definitely need more court reporters, need more legal transcribers, need more transcribers in general, need more proofreaders, need more of all of these people. So if you are looking for a job or thinking about this industry, these are the folks to talk to. We have gotten quite a few questions, so I'm going to just try and jump right into those and stop asking my questions and go right into those. One of the questions we got was, do new digital reporters, and I'm going to add legal transcribers, just get thrown in, or do they shadow, mock, practice, do those things beforehand, or are they thrown to the wolves, as this very creative person put? And Susan, are you throwing people to the wolves?
I always say, we're not going to throw you into the deep end until you're ready. So eventually, you know what? Nobody ever feels totally ready to do this, but you will not be thrown to the wolves. So we can promise you that. We want you to be as successful as you want to be. So you will receive training. I know each of the companies, I can speak for myself. We do. We have new reporters have a mentor on our staff. They shadow on depots. They have mock depositions. They have trainings. We have monthly meetings with our development team that develops our new features on our platform, trains them on those new features. There's constantly additional training being done. And so no, you will not be thrown to the wolves. You will be challenged and encouraged to get out there. And then as soon as you're done your first job, you're going to get a cheer and say, you made it, because you will make it.
I agree. I mean, I got into this industry and you never feel like you're ready for your first job. And my first job, I started in legal videography, and my first legal videography job was, I didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I was ready for it. It just was a matter of, you never quite know until you do it. So definitely. Somebody is asking, is AAERT certification just for the reporter, or does it also include the transcriber or a proofreader? And I'll just handle that one. AAERT has one certification, the CER for the reporter. They have another certification for the transcriber, the CET. And I am actually on the task force working on a new certification for the deposition industry for the deposition reporters. So we are going to be launching a new certification in the next few months, and that will complement it. That'll be for those people who just want to focus on maybe the deposition and out of court market, similarly to like what Liz and Alexis and Susan and Jordan have been talking about, but maybe don't need all that in-court stuff right away. They're going to be able to take a test more specifically suited to them. But there's a lot of certified people here. So definitely, certification is something that we all push there. So definitely something to look at. Here is somebody saying, I type very quickly, but have issues switching from one speaker to another. I realize that different platforms have hotkeys. Are there different options to designate speakers? Jordan, why don't you take this one?
I read that question. I actually think I might know who wrote it, which would be funny if that's who I know. But yeah, it kind of goes back to what I think Alexis was saying. It's one of those things in time. I personally had trained myself because I had the same issue. I had my wrist. I was not able to properly do it. So in time, it's one of those things I kind of built up the stamina. In regards to hotkeys and software, I don't use anything other than the DRC software that's provided by Veritex. I know there are many add-on third-party software, so maybe one of the other ladies knows of one. It's just one of those things. It took me about 3 to 4 months, but you get in a groove. And once you get in a groove, I felt like I was playing the piano again when I was a kid. So I just got in the groove and I can do it now. But I know there are some great third-party softwares if anyone has any recommendations.
Liz, how do you guys handle hotkeys and speaker designation? I don't even know what software you're using these days.
So we actually use more than one software. So how we handle that is the different softwares are different. One of them is, hotkeys are F1, F2, F3. And the speaker names, they designate what they want for each person, either a number or a letter. The other software kind of has a hotkeys that you can set up in advance. So the annotations will actually come out with the names or of the speaker when they're speaking. So it kind of depends on the software you're using. I would commit to a software before I worried about what you were going to use as hotkeys, because they're all so different. They're really different. So I would wait to see, when you decide on a software. There are a few really good ones. So, I mean, if anybody wants to email me, I can talk to them about that. But I do think that you have to pick a software, do your research before you decide, you start worrying about what you're going to use for hotkeys.
Definitely. And I even have worked with some people who use like gamer keyboards or those little keyboards on the side where you can assign commands to the buttons. And so they can actually initiate like those type of hotkeys directly from like an auxiliary keyboard, which is kind of cool. But there are so many different ways, and you're right, it's software based. So a lot of that has to do with what you're working on. The next question is it helpful to go out and get experience before taking the AAERT certification? And I have to say yes, but yes, it's great to have experience. You're going to learn and know more and get more hands-on, and it actually is an AAERT requirement that you have 1 year of experience, unless you go through an approved program or you have a letter from an existing certified member. So yes, it's good to get experience, but the but part of this is you are going to be tested, especially for the CER and the CET, on federal standards, and you're going to be tested on their formatting, and you're going to be tested on very specific things. So if you apply your knowledge of your local jurisdiction, which may have certain specialized rules for your state, your county, your area, those may not necessarily be the same answers that are on the exam. So as much as the experience is great and it's going to give you a lot of insight, it's also going to make sure you're studying what you need to study and that you just kind of hold that away a little bit and really think about what AART is teaching you, either through a training program or through their best practices guide, or through reviewing their terminology, that sort of thing. So definitely something something with that. Somebody here is saying, Alexis, they missed what you said about if you're certified. And I think you were saying that you earn more.
30%.
Is that 30%?
30%. Yeah.
And Susan and Liz, do you guys do that as well? More for certified people?
Yes.
Yes, we do as well. It's more for certified.
Yeah,
Right.
I just wanted to add on to that. As a gig worker, if you're doing this part-time as an additional job especially for transcription, do you have to be certified? No. It would be great, but as a digital court reporter, to be honest with you, we want to be on the same level as the way people see stenographers. Stenographers are certified, they have continuing education. I think it's important for us in this industry to also be held to that same standard. So do you have to be certified when you first start? No, but if it's something that you want to commit yourself to doing, certification also shows you give the same respect to this profession as a stenographer. And as digital reporting is growing, it's just going nuts. It's growing astronomically. We want to have that same reputation of high standards and professionalism. So go for your certification. It's totally worth it. Plus you do make money.
Right, we're going to have levels, and people who don't get certified are going to stay and they're going to take these kind of jobs, and their clients are going to like them this amount, and people who are certified are the ones that are really going to rise.
Yeah, and I was going to say, to add to what Alexis was saying, when I began as a digital court reporter with Veritex, I was not certified. I only had my BlueLedge education, and my employer Veritex just said, look, if you join AART, if you study, if you learn, it's going to help you in the field. Oh, and by the way, we're going to increase your pay. So I was like, all right, what's AART? How do I join? Studied my butt off and passed. And I got to say, since doing that, I definitely feel like I get more respect from the attorneys, because there's been many times I've been on depositions and they'll go, wait a minute, you're digital, you're recording. No. And I said, well, I am certified by a nationally ranked organization, AART. I was like, I sat for a court, and they go, oh, you're certified. Okay, we can proceed. So it's actually helped me on many of depositions so that they don't have an issue, because they know that I'm a qualified, certified person with an education, and I'm also going with standards that are nationally recognized across the board.
Well, and the other thing I will say is, remember, the people in the room that are there paying for you, they've gone and gone their bar exam. They've gone their version of certification. Their paralegals have gone and been certified by NALA. So the truth is they're surrounded by that, so they really respect that. I am going to try and get through a few more of these questions. We only have a couple more minutes. I'll ask our panel to maybe hold over by a couple minutes so we can answer as many of these as possible, but let's get into rapid fire mode here. Can I live anywhere? And the answer to that is yes. If you're a legal transcriptionist, almost definitely. That is like, you can live anywhere and do it almost any time of the day. As a court reporter, you may have to be a notary in the state that you're operating in. There are things called stipulations and remote, or RONs, remote notaries, and all of that kind of thing. And I'm not an expert in there, but some of our panelists are. So if you have questions about, are they hiring in your area? please, contact them. The other thing, while I'm getting through the questions, I'm going to ask all of the panelists to please put either your email address or your contact information or how somebody would apply for a role at your company in the chat box, so everyone can see that, please. And please put it there so everybody can see. Let's keep going. So an attorney doesn't know ahead of time they're getting a digital reporter. I think most agencies today believe in the idea of the right reporter for the right role. Somebody who is the best reporter for the best job. And I don't think it matters what methodology they're using, if it's stenography, voice, digital, especially in this remote world. Certainly, we have agencies who started as steno and it became all digital, like Liz's agency. We have remote onlys that are a mix of type, like Susan's. You have Alexis and Jordan work for an agency that does sort of all of the above and then some. So I really just think it's about having the right reporter, a professional in the room who's a neutral third party, and not about the machine they're taking down the record with. Does anybody else have 2 cents on that?
I do. I just want to say that, I was a voice writer for many years, and there's really no difference so long as you capture the record and you're professional and you're there to do your job. You're there to make a record and to take control of the proceedings insofar as, people speaking over each other, that type of thing. The main thing on this job, regardless of how you're taking down the record, is to have a live human there who's capable of keeping everything under control. That's the way I look at it. I'm very happy with the digital reporters that I've met so far in the past year and a half since we started this, and so professional, and people take their job so seriously. And it's like any profession, that's the kind of people you need, is people who are serious about it, who want to do the best job they can. And it has nothing to do with the method of takedown, in my opinion.
And another question we got is, if I go through a particular company and use their software, may I freelance for other companies using their software? And I think universally the answer is probably no. This person specifically asked about Veritex, but I know Remote Legal has their own software and platform they use. And so a lot of companies have developed a software for them. And so a court reporter working for many companies might actually have several softwares installed on their platform, and or they may have one that they're using for their main company and then one for when they go and do jobs for, their other kind of fill-in companies that maybe is theirs that they own. So I don't want to speak out of turn, but Susan, are you the same way? It's sort of proprietary to Remote Legal?
So our proprietary is our platform. That's where we do our depositions. We use another vendor for our annotation software. So there are a couple of vendors out there now in the freelance market that are relatively cost effective. They're monthly subscriptions to use their software. There are plenty of others that you just purchase it and it's an investment, but you would just purchase it and have it for your software. But it's just our platform. That's where we do our depositions. Otherwise, the software, if you're a gig worker, like Liz said, you use what you've been using. If whatever software you choose to use is fine with us, as long as you provide us an accurate quality recording.
Somebody is asking about proofreading. Should they become, if they want to be a proofreader, should they learn how to be a full transcriber? I think yes. Alexis, what's your thought on that? You work with a lot of transcribers and proofreaders. Oh, she might be frozen. So Susan, you oh, sorry, Alexis?
I didn't hear what you said, but I can try to answer it. Should they become a transcriber before a proofreader? I think, you don't have to. I think you'll find more jobs, and I think you'll be a part of this evolutionary wave that's going on if you do, and you'll understand kind of more comprehensively. You may not be a very fast transcriber at the beginning. That's the downside. So if you can find just proofreading and editing jobs, that's great. But I would think you'd really benefit from seeing the transcription side, and then you'd be more open and able to take jobs that have different levels.
So I think we lost Alexis's connection again, but we definitely, you know, what she said is I kind of resonate with. It's good to know both sides. You know, you may have to, depending on the level of proofreading you're doing, you may have to format. You may have to know how to switch things in and out of colloquy. You may have to retype certain paragraphs as a proofreader or scopist. So knowing the whole thing is great. If you don't, and you're just really great at English and you understand English for the spoken language, like Greg's or Morrison's, that sort of English, then sure, you probably could be a proofreader, but it's always good to have more knowledge so that you can be more valuable to everyone else. So I think, you know, I think that's all the questions we have, and we are about 5 minutes over our time. So I want to thank our guests again for joining us, and thank you so much, Alexis, Liz, Susan, Jordan, and everybody who joined us today on this webinar. Thank you so much.